Agenda is printed. Mr. City Manager, will you please read item number 3, please?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 3 is to consider a resolution authorizing the settlement of the lawsuit styled Ronald K. Davis versus John D. Brown et al., civil action number 122 CV 00024. And I'll let the city attorney lead the item. You want me to go ahead and read it? All right, let me go ahead and read it. That's fine. Lawsuit styled Ronald K. Davis versus John D. Brown et al., civil action number 1-22 CV 00024 was presented and discussed in executive session held on July 19th, 2022, as well as today, August 2nd, 2022. The city attorney is requesting authority to settle this suit in the amount of $22,500. The funding source would come from the General Liability Fund.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of item number 3. Is there a motion?
I so move to approve the request for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there a discussion? Councilmember GETZ.
We've discussed this case extensively in executive session. I will not be supporting this motion to pay this citizen any money because, in my view, the police officers did not do anything that amounted to a constitutional violation of this man's civil rights. This man has sued both the city of Beaumont and its police officers. Different standards of liability attached to each. Because of contractual obligations with the police union, we're required to provide a defense to the police officer who enjoys qualified immunity from this type of allegation. But as to the city, for this plaintiff to prevail, he would have to show that the city of Beaumont had a written policy encouraging its officers to abuse the rights of our citizens. And of course, we do not have that. Or he would have to show that we have a custom or pattern of practice in which we allow our police officers to use excessive force against our citizens, and we just turn a blind eye, which of course we do not. Or he would have to show that we have failed to properly train our police officers, which he cannot, and our police department is the best trained police department in the area. So, the only reason we would be settling this case for $22,500 is because we feel that it might cost more to defend it. And maybe it would. But sometimes there's principles in place that are important. And standing behind your police department and your police officers when they haven't done anything wrong is important. It's important. Paying money when it's not a just claim is the wrong thing to do. It opens up the doors to the slot machine, the ATM machine. People play litigation lotto. They become aware that they can file a claim and the city of Beaumont's a soft target. We're going to pay that claim, even if it's not a just claim. I support our police department, and I am not supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. GETZ. Councilmember Turner, please.
Mr. Attorney, out of curiosity, when it went to the DA, what was the response there?
There were criminal charges that were associated with the case. The charges were dismissed for the interest of justice. I believe the DA's notes were that they did not believe the elements fit the crime. So
with that being said, it was dismissed. Currently, what is the amount of money we spent on this particular case?
The officer is being represented by an outside firm, and so far the expenses total roughly around $40,000.
Okay, with that being said, we have done the math and we know the projections of what we will be spending if we did try the case, and what would that amount be?
It was estimated that without any expert testimony, that the expenses for trial could range in excess of $75,000.
Okay, so that's 75,000, and it's being requested that we can settle for 22.5. My next question is from the officer's perspective, what did the officer say in regards to this case? Because I want to make it clear, I am in full support of our police department and our police officers. I don't want to even make that scenario, put that out there. I'm a huge advocate of our law enforcement, and I think we have an awesome law enforcement. That's why I think it's important to discuss what did that officer say himself in reference to this case.
He wasn't opposed to the settlement.
Okay, and with that being said, I haven't spoke to an officer who called me and asked me not to settle this particular case as well. I just want to say that for the record.
Thank you. Councilmember Samuel?
I'll simply say that I've heard Councilmember GETZ assessments of the case. I don't agree with his assessments of the case. However, one, I want it to be known that this is not a matter of not supporting our police department. This is a matter of choosing our battles and minimizing our exposure. And that's what I'm making my decision based on.
Councilmember Felshaw?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be voting no regarding settling with Mr. Davis, and mine is based on, as has already been mentioned, that for me it's a matter of principle, that I feel like our officer behaved himself to the best of his ability given the situation, and there's no cause for this lawsuit. And for me, it does come down to a point where sometimes you just have to stand for what you think is right, and stand on principle. That's for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Duria?
I just want to say that I also fully support our police department. I think we have a great police department. But our job up here on council is to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And this is just, it just makes sense. That 75,000, that would be in addition to the 40,000 that we've already spent. And we could stop all of this today for $22,500. That's all I want to say.
Also, anyone else? I would also like to say I am truly in support of our police officers. I think we have a great police force. We have spent $40,000 with an additional $10,000 in-house for our city attorney and assistant city attorney, which comes to a total of $50,000 plus a possible additional $75,000, which would take this case to $125,000 of your tax dollars to settle, and the case is being settled for $22,500. So with that being said, all in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So I heard everybody up here talk about how we support the police department, and as I do too. But we also got to remember these guys are in contract negotiations right now. So how about we also consider giving these guys the 1% raise that they're additionally asking for?
Well, sir, no one has denied their raise.
But we as a council need to discuss it. I've asked and asked and asked, and we've yet to get an update on it.
Okay. Well, that's something that we'll take up with staff, but right now that is not the question that's before this council right now. Thank you. So what I would like to ask, all in favor of approving item number 3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Did you get that? 3 nays. The motion carry. May I have the reading of item number 4, please? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Item number 4, before I read the caption, we will have a public hearing to receive comments related to draft plans for the reapportionment of single-member council wards. And I'll go ahead and read the caption of the item. Council will be asked to consider an ordinance amending the boundaries of the wards for the city of Beaumont for election purposes. And again, the item is an ordinance entitled an ordinance adopting a new reapportionment plan, thereby revising city council member ward boundaries in response to the 2020 census providing for findings of fact, providing for this ordinance be cumulative, providing for severability, providing for the governmental immunity, and providing for injunctions. And again, Mayor, I'd ask you to go ahead and open the public hearing. As you may know, we have maps, proposed map A rather, and proposed map B. We've had them posted on the website. We've got them posted here in the chamber. We've had them posted in the lobby. And we would ask you to open that public hearing.
Thank you. The floor is now open for anyone who would like to speak on agenda item number 4, please.
Christopher Jones, 1045 Doucette, Beaumont, Texas.
Thank you.
Good day, Mayor and Council. I'm coming to you on behalf of the many citizens, civic groups, and organizations that have reached out to me asking that I address you on this particular issue. The address today is about having access to action. We would like to ask if you all would postpone this public hearing and the amendment process for an evening meeting, giving residents the opportunity to rally and involve and engage in this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing. Thank you. I'm sorry. Any council member comments? Councilmember GETZ.
Yes, we heard from our attorney that we hired to do this study last week. He explained that there are 2 maps for us to choose between. One he had prepared is map A. The other one is map B. Very minor changes in map B from map A. But basically what this all boils down to is that wards 1 and 2 have increased their population to such an extent that there has to be some changes because of the last census. Ward 2 that I serve, we have approximately 33,000 people in it. Ward 4, the council that Councilman Durio serves, has 24,000 people in it. And federal law requires all the wards to be roughly an equal population. So that means that Ward 2 is going to have to give some of its population to Ward 4. Ward 1 is going to have to give some of its population to Ward 4 in order to get these numbers to come out right. Ward 3 is at about the right size for the average of all 4. It's about 28,000. In order for Ward 2 to give population to Ward 4, it has to be a portion of Ward 2 that touches Ward 4. It's got to be right there on the boundary. There's 2 places in Ward 2 where that occur. That's out in the Brentwood area, and it's also in the Caldwood area. Proposed map A suggests moving voting precinct 5, all of it, into Ward 4 and out of Ward 2 where it has historically been. I had numerous citizens that live in Caldwood reach out to me expressing that they would like to remain in Ward 2. But out of all of those citizens that reached out to me expressing that, all of them lived on the west side of East Caldwood. East Caldwood is that street that when you come across the Lindbergh overpass and into the Caldwood addition, it becomes East Caldwood and it goes on up to Calder. It's the portion of Caldwood that has the bigger houses, the houses that take up more property. You're only really talking about 40 or so houses and maybe about 200 people. So the demographer came back with a proposed map B, and he said it would be perfectly fine. It wouldn't change the numbers. It would not violate the Voting Rights Act. It would split a voting precinct. It would split voting precinct 5. But he also went on to say that that's not uncommon. It's done in lots of places. All you really have to have is a geographical boundary that is clean like East Caldwood. So I'm going to ask the council to consider supporting map B. I've talked to Councilmember Durio, who's the council member that would be affected by this, and he indicated that he didn't have any problem with it. And, I would appreciate the opportunity to continue to allow the citizens that want to stay in Ward 2 to be able to do so, given that it doesn't negatively affect what we're trying to do here, which is rebalance the various wards and population.
Councilmember Durio, then Councilmember Samuel.
Just to piggyback on what Councilman Getz said, Ward 4 is not going to lose anyone. We're actually adding population. Like the Voting Rights Act, the racial breakup will remain the same, and so I have no problem supporting map B.
Councilmember Samuel.
As we've discussed previously, I really don't have a problem with either one of the maps that's been presented. However, I think the thing that bothers me is we're setting a precedent of splitting a ward, splitting a precinct rather, and that's because of the desire of some of the members in that ward or in that precinct. They feel that they want to choose their council person. I understand that, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in the city that would rather live in someone else's ward or their precinct. But we would be setting a precedent of beginning to divide precincts, and that's something that we hadn't done previously throughout the years. And I can understand it's not a violation, but it is setting a precedent that we begin to set wards based on individual desires from citizens. So that's a dangerous precedent, I believe, to set.
Councilmember Felshaw.
And I agree with Councilman Samuel. When the attorney was presenting this to us, my initial reaction was, I hate to disappoint Councilman Getz, but this is, for me, breaking protocol. And that was my opinion until the attorney said, he answered the question, is this a common practice? And he said yes, that, this is a common thing they do. They actually split precincts and so forth. And so I can appreciate Councilman Samuel's position, because that was my position until the attorney said, this is really a common practice. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Neal.
So would it be possible to keep all of Precinct 5 in Ward 2 and maybe move another precinct out?
They kind of played with it a little bit, and it wasn't, again, one of the
Numbers don't work.
The numbers don't work, and one of the things that they're challenged with doing is that they cannot change the voting strength or the racial population in a particular ward. And the other big thing is that we're looking for precincts that are actually contiguous to touch, as he mentioned, they touch that boundary line.
Right.
And so we don't want to make like squiggly lines and I hate to sound childish, but we want clean boundary lines. And so maps A and B both present clean boundary lines. And so there wasn't a map C option that would give us the same results. They did try. And I'll be honest, like when we were preparing for map B, they looked at what options they had to not be able to split the precinct. Like, could they keep all of 5 in 2 and move another portion or whatever? And it just, there were just weren't any other clean options to do that.
Any other discussion? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. And may I have a motion for item number 4, please?
Mayor, I move to approve map B.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion for the Councilmember Turner?
Well, it's Councilmember Durio's ward, and you're okay with it, and Mike's advocating for it. I understand it's a precedence, but I'm big on, as long as it can be done and it's okay, and it's in good faith of the citizens who's asking for it. I feel like we're up here to represent them as well. So long as we can legally do it, I have no issue supporting both of you guys. That's y'all wards. Y'all both have something to do with it. Y'all okay with it? I don't mind supporting it.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approving item number 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Nay.
Mayor, the ordinance does require a second reading, so council will be charged with seeing this item back next week for a second reading before it can fully be adopted. There won't be a public comment, but obviously be posted as an action item so individuals can comment before or after the meeting and public comment.
Thank you. The motion carries. I need to read another executive session. At the end and the close of the city council meeting, the council will hold another executive session today to deliberate the appointment, employment, and duties of the city manager's position in accordance with section 551.074 of the Government Code, personnel matters. At the close of the meeting, Christopher S. Boone, Lionel D. Lyons, Kenneth R. Williams. Consider matters related to, contemplating, or pending litigation in accordance with section 551.071 of the Government Code for Tar Frazier versus City of Beaumont, cause number E206919, claim of Robert Counts, and claim of Virginia Quinterner. At this time, we'll have public comments. And if you haven't already done so, please fill out the green slip to the back of the room, hand it to the clerk, the front of the room. The green light will come on at the beginning of your 3 minutes, and the red light will come on at the end of your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Tony Renfro, 6110 Bankston Lane, Beaumont, Texas.
Good afternoon, Council and Madam Mayor. Today I come before speaking on behalf of myself and the majority. Again, let me repeat that one more time so you can understand what I'm saying. I come before you again speaking on behalf of myself and the majority. The majority won't change today. The city of Beaumont now have an opportunity to make a move in a new and positive direction by hiring a new, well-qualified, experienced applicant for city manager. It's time for a change. The city of Beaumont has been, for the past 2 decades, a stalled city with missed opportunity for growth, new businesses, and because of mismanagement by an incompetent past city manager who mismanaged one of the most important department of the city works. The city of Beaumont has been stagnant with great untapped opportunities for growth and creative opportunities. It's time for those who have kept this great city below average. It's time for those who have been attached to this old regime. It's time to step off the stage and bring in one of the most defined, well-groomed, productive, well-rounded applicant the city has ever employed. We, the majority, again, let me say that again, we, the majority, highly recommend the applicant, Kenneth Williams, to take our city to the next level as our new city manager and beyond. And again, for the 3rd time, Council, I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of the city, of this great city. There is no need for councilmen to provide and produce private investigation on future candidate who has already been proven. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christopher Jones, 1045 Doucette, Beaumont, Texas.
Good afternoon again, Mayor and Council. I come to address you again on the awaited deliberation of the hiring of a new city manager. With the listed considerations on behalf of many citizens, civic groups, and organizations, we would like to recommend that you do not consider the interim city manager for the city management position. We ask this because of the track record of the interim city manager, who was or is the developer of the city of Beaumont. During their tenure to the city, many of those I speak for today have been made to feel dissociated and even exiled from the city of Beaumont when it comes to community engagement with options of resolve. We are not willing to go down the same road or roads, experienced some of the same practices, or have other issues unresolved. These practices were the dealings of the exiting manager and seem to be the actions of and training of the interim manager in place. Now is the best time to set up the city for its new direction, one that we, the people, can rally behind. You want change? Well, Mayor and Council, that change must start with a new city manager, and the interim is not the option. We ask that your deliberation and overall decision is in line with the populace and many other communities represented by my attendance and address to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crystal Menard, and I have no address. Wilma Spikes, 1605 Victoria, Beaumont, Texas.
Good afternoon. I'm Wilma Spikes. Hello to the council, all the council members, and to the mayor. My concern is 1950 Jockamine. I've raised my children here in Beaumont, and I have been here over 40 years. And my concern, I have several properties here in the city. And recently, one of my properties has been red tagged. The property had utilities, taxes paid, water on, lights on, and tenant occupied. So my controversial opinion is the department that red tagged the property, I don't know if they've done it to other citizens, or am I being bullied, or is it part of the city code to do it to any other citizens? I had no idea that a piece of property that is tenant occupied with utilities on can be deemed red tagged. So that's what I'm here for, to plead my cause. Asking the council people to plead my cause. They have yet turned my water services off, turned my lights off, and I would like to say that every time that I have had electrical work, I've had licensed people to do the work, and I have had permit. And yes, permit on file here in the offices, code offices. So my concern is I want my services back. I do plan to pull a permit and comply with anything Beaumont Code Department tell me to do. But in the meantime, I feel like that I have been wronged. I feel like I have been wronged for my property to be deemed red tagged, tenant occupied, and utilities on, and taxes paid. I need your help. This is added duress. I have properties, I have complied, I have pulled permits. Now, maybe there's other people that need to know that utilities can be on, your house can be leaning to one side, you can still have a blue tarp on your roof, you can be living in your property and get red tagged. I need to know that so it won't happen to the next person behind me. But right now, it has happened to me. Yes, I've been here 40 years. I live off this. I don't live in the property that's tagged, but I live off this. This is part of my income. This has had, in the last 2 months, put me under so much duress. I will comply. I will do what Beaumont Code Department tell me to do.
Ms.
I will pull
Pikes?
other permits. Okay.
Thank you.
I ask you to plead my cause and
Thank
give
you.
me my services back.
Thank you.
Travis Haynes, 4805 Beck Street, Beaumont, Texas.
How y'all doing? I'm Travis Haynes. I would like to talk about an issue that happened to me May 25th, 2013. I was slammed head first by a correctional officer of Jefferson County Correctional Facility. He immediately snapped my left arm, as you can see from the scar. But the thing about the break, it wasn't no simple break. I stayed in isolation cell for 3 whole days, fighting for my life, with no medical attention, advising every correctional staff that came by there my arm was broken, every medical staff that my arm was broken. They did nothing. Only thing they did was, at the night shift, the night crew would come by every night and clean out my cell on the block. No other person's cell. Also, an officer named Compost used to put a cup.
Sorry, don't call any names, please.
Yes, ma'am. Officer used to put a cup on my cell every night and try to make me drink it. I did not drink it. I bled out internally through my main artery that runs through my left arm, and I almost passed out the surgery. Nothing has been done. I got a lawyer from a certain law firm out here. He said, well, he'll take care of it. He'll bring it to the media if he have to. He filed the suit. He waiting for the county to come back with an offer amount, and we'll settle without bringing it to the media. The man never, once I got locked up and came out, the man said all my evidence basically just disappeared. But I'm in that cell on camera for 3 whole days, kicking, banging, and yelling for my life. I'm gonna bring this to the city council first, then the news, civil rights groups, whoever I had to talk to make sure I'm righteously compensated for my injuries, my lifelong injuries. I wanted to be a boxer, I wanted to go to Army, I wanted to do things physically to provide for my family. And I can't. I have damaged nerve in his arm, and I'm hurting every day. The way the lawyers hit it and Jefferson County worked together to eliminate this problem and eliminate for me bringing it to the media or the council members or society, my public city, was completely wrong. I'm human too, and I deserve to be treated right. They say liberty and justice for all. I'm just looking for the same. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
I don't have any others, Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I will have council member comment, and I'm going to start with you, Mayor Pro Tem Durio.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. I want all citizens to be aware. I know it might sound simple, but it can really have an effect on our drainage. When you're cutting your grass, you're responsible for those clippings that go on the street. You're not supposed to be spraying them or sweeping them or blowing them down into the drainage. And you're supposed to get them off of the street. So just remember that. Or if you have a yard service that cuts your grass, remind them of that. You know, they're responsible for picking up those clippings out the street. Also, I want to say some of the events I attended This weekend was a couple of backpack school supply giveaway. One was with the 100 plus black women, and another one was with YDIA. You did it again over there at Odom. YDIA was at Alice Keith Park, and just want to appreciate y'all letting me attend, and it's a good thing for the community. It was really successful, getting them kids ready to go back to school. And also attended a turnout at our Mother Mercy Church with my American Legion posts. So I've been pretty busy. Mayor Pro Tem stays pretty busy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Getz.
A lot of times when I'm walking through the city, going places, people ask me, well, what's the status of getting Battleship Texas to Beaumont? And, I tell them that it's progressing, and we're doing what we can here as a city to make that happen. But citizens took it upon themselves to give the citizens a voice, and there is now a survey that is on the change.org site. You can see that it's titled Bring the Battleship Texas to Beaumont. I think it's about 3 days old, and it's already got hundreds of people that have indicated that they would like to see the Battleship Texas come to Beaumont. So if you want to have a voice in that matter, that's one way you can exercise that voice. You can go to that web page. I've got it on my Facebook page, and but it's called Bring the Battleship Texas to Beaumont, and say why you want it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Turner.
First and foremost, I want to compliment CBV. They had the Beat Baseball National League come down and host a tournament in Beaumont, Texas. I actually went out there and volunteered, and one of the most humbling things I noticed is those individuals out there blind, playing a sport, celebrating, excited, positive, and not complaining at all about the things that they actually don't have. And it kind of humbled me for a second, because we go by every day in life, and often we complain and we don't know how privileged we are just because we have all our physical attributes. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the back-to-school drives. It was one at Smith Middle School. It was a great job. Stacy Lewis Sr. put that one on along with that school. It was one at Odom Academy by Bobby Patterson, 100 plus black women. And it was one at Alice Keith Park, YDIA and Shea. I actually went to all three of those and volunteered, and I think it's important that, we say we're a part of the community. I've heard comments that we have too many back-to-school drives. It's 16,000 kids that just go to BISD. And the reality is, out of those kids, some of them have unfortunate living conditions, and us to even ever have the mentality that we have too many back-to-school drives is ridiculous to me, because out of 16,000 kids, everybody's not fortunate. So I think we need to shift our mentality if we ever think like that. And lastly, I understand staff is currently negotiating the police contract negotiations. Councilman Neal, you asked. I don't mind supporting you and even being a second if you did want to get an update, an executive session or whatever. I'm fine with that. But I want to piggyback. We're also in budget season, and we're talking about compensation and paying. I stressed last council meeting, we need to look at our minimums. Though we're talking about paying, we have people who are making $11, $12 an hour. With that being said, the cost of living in today's environment is extremely high. And since we're talking about paying and compensating, I would like to advocate that we pay and compensate and look at taking care of everybody from the bottom as well, just as we're looking at the top. Because it's extremely hard to live on living wages and not go back to doing things that may put you in a position to be in that salary range when you're only making that amount of money. So I just want to reiterate, I asked to look at our minimums, and I kind of want to see where we stand and compare to other competitive markets, because I seen a sign at Chick-fil-A. They had $19.99. And it's kind of unfortunate, we competing with all these different regions. We got to be competitive as possible. So I just want to stress, I want to look at the bottom, our minimums, just as much as we focusing on the top and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Samuel.
I just like to say I had a pleasant tour on last week with an organization out in the Charlton Pollard area. I look forward to working with that organization, the Charlton Pollard Neighborhood Association, as well as getting with city staff to look at the property, the city property that's around our parks, and look at possibly incorporating a community garden in that area. So I was pleased to see that when I went out. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Felshaw.
Thank you, Mayor. This last Thursday, I had the opportunity to stop by the Sterling Pruitt Center for the summer camp program that we run, and a number of council members dropped by there. It wasn't just me. There was a number of them. But the one thing I just wanted to say is, in looking at this group of young kids and listening to the staff and Officer Riley, that's been a part of this for many years, and listen to their passion and their love for our kids, I was taken back by the moment. And there's just a lot of good things happening in our community, and we have a lot of good people. And I appreciate the staff. I appreciate Officer Riley, Beaumont PD, our first responders, all of them, fire, police, and EMS. We have some great people. And I just wanted to make a public announcement or statement that I appreciate the staff at Sterling Pruitt and Officer Riley and what they do for our kids. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Samuel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Felshaw, for reminding me of that. I did go out and I did visit with the staff, but you can't express it enough, nor can I, the job that Carol Riley does in working with our kids. It was beautiful, and it was very heartwarming, and particularly to see her getting the Beaumont Police Department involved as she did. So it was a wonderful event, and it was good to see those kids just truly having fun.
Thank you. City Manager.
Just real quickly, just a reminder, we plan to have a budget work session, and I believe August 16th is when it's budgeted, just following up on Councilmember Turner's comments. And we are preparing a timeline of our negotiations with the police union. You should have that within the next day or two.
Thank you. City Attorney. Public Works. Todd. Okay. Lauren, I am so sorry. I'm going to ask if you will come to the podium. Lauren is our communication director to announce a joint venture. The owner of Urban Air called me a week ago, and she asked, how could she partner with the city of Beaumont and our police department to do a back-to-school bash for our students. And it's something that she not only want to do for this week and next week, but she would like to continue it because of the lack of things for tweens to do in this area. And I left my notes, and so I spoke with Lauren this morning about it. And Lauren, if you would just please give that information so that the audience, viewing audience, can have that.
Sure. So Thursday night at Urban Air, 8 to 10 p.m., the Police Community Relations Department is partnering with Urban Air. They'll be there to interact with any kids. It is geared towards teenagers aged 13 to 16, and 25% of the door proceeds will go to the Cops and Kids program. So, like you mentioned, it's a really great way for some of the teens and tweens to have one last kind of hurrah before they go back to school. Parents will need to drop them off and pick them up. But it is for teenagers to have fun, and registration is required on the Urban Air website. So if you have kids, definitely check it out.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Lauren.
Sure.
And that is this Thursday night?
That is
This
this
Thursday,
Thursday
yes.
night.
I'm out of town.
This Thursday night. So if you can come out, council, please come out. I think it's a great opportunity for the owner, Rachel, to even do this. She said she really, really wanted to get involved in this community, especially with all of the crime that we've had with our teenagers. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of the kids to get out, again, have that last batch of fun before school start. Thanks again, Lauren. I appreciate that. Also, to piggyback on what was said about the grass, please, everyone, we're in hurricane season, and if you look at the news and you look at Kentucky, and please keep them in prayer because there was water up to the rooftops. And if your house have never flooded, and you've seen the flood, I promise you, it's a nightmare. And they've had 37 deaths, and they're still expecting more rain. I can't even imagine because I've been there. So, again, when you cut your grass or you see trash, please pick it up because it does affect the storm drains. And then the first thing people will say, well, we had a normal rain and the street flooded. Well, that's why. And once it gets in with the mud that's already in there and it get caked up, and then on a normal rain, the streets are flooding, and then we have problems. So just be good citizens, and please make sure that when you cut your grass, that it's cut and picked up. Also, got a text this morning where a lady explained to me that her neighbor's dogs, they allowed their dog to go into her yard to poop. And she has had surgery, which is called born urine disease. She had to travel to Maryland to even find a doctor that could even treat her. She's home recovering from this surgery behind urine and poop that was in her yard. And it may sound strange, I've never heard of it, but she's had surgery and recovering. So when it's your dog, keep your dog as close on a leash as possible. And if he has to poop or urine, just don't let it be in someone else's yard. I don't know how you could really control that, in a moment's notice, but at all possible, because everybody doesn't have dogs. And everybody, aren't pet lovers, unfortunately. But for those who are, and you have your pets, control your pets as much as you possibly can and not let them go on somebody else's property. Again, there were the backpack giveaways, and I'm like you, Councilmember Turner, I don't think you could ever have too many. Right now, we're in some economical hard times. There are a lot of people that are in need of these supplies. So I want to thank Shay with YDIA and 100 Black Women for contributing to our community and making sure that our students have what they need. And again, I can't talk enough about Dean Conwell and Freddie Willard and the rest of the CVB group for sponsoring the World Series Beep Ball. As Councilmember Turner said, these people are sightless, and they were happier in all of that heat than most of us would be, because I know I was out there for about 45 minutes, and I thought I would pass out, but they were just happy. They were happy to be out and about and in the sun. I didn't get an opportunity to see them play on their play days, and one of the days was canceled due to lightning, and they didn't even want to leave when it was lightning. So, but of course, you have to be careful and protective of the environment. And so on the day, which I believe was Saturday, that I would have had the opportunity to go out, it was canceled. But again, it was a great opportunity for Beaumont to host this World Series. It was the first time, and it does go around the United States, and I'm just so proud of the staff of CVB. And so, no other comments. We're going to recess into executive session. Thank you for coming, and spread the love as always. Thank you.